Good evening, everybody. How's it going, everybody? It's me, Comic Crack. It's Monday night. I did this video Saturday night, but truth be told, I was a little too kind of out of it. So I'm redoing it. Uh, it was kind of all over the place. I couldn't get a thought together to save my life. I was having trouble making sentences. So I've decided to reshoot this. I also realized there's a few things I totally forgot to talk about. I'm still keeping track in my book, and one of the things that I do at the end, I've been doing at the end of this book is I kind of have been what numbers of what comics I talked about what week of the Sunday wraps, so I could, when the time comes, I can come back to it for putting like a list together of favorite issues, favorite things I read during the year. I can at least refer back to the videos to get a little more detail on some of the books. I don't know. I've got ideas for things I want to do at the end of this year when it comes to the reading goals this year. But we'll see if all of those pan out. So for the most part, there was a few of you that were here on that Saturday night. For the most part, it's just going to be a quick recap of things that I did talk about then. Probably won't go into any great detail on things. Pardon me. Hopefully, I'm way more. I say this. I almost try to say the sentence way more coherent this time than I was on Saturday. So we'll start with the digital stuff. We'll start with the books that I didn't talk about on Saturday. So if there's people, you need a system like the book. Yeah, I think you do as well. I think everybody needs a book. And for those of you who don't know, well, I'm sure everybody that's going to watch this, Larasa, who I do the chat with every Sunday, she's doing a book as well, but she's taken it a level up, doing drawings of the books, of the comics that she's been reading, which is pretty damn incredible. Welcome, Colin. So the books that I didn't talk about. Hello, Scott Connor. How the hell are you, man? It's been a while. I hope you're well. One of the things I didn't talk about, I've only found a couple of issues online, but I did manage to track down 2 of the Night of the Living Dead comics from Fantico. Let's go full screen. The first 2 issues only. So this was the 1991/1992 series. There was a prelude to it that we've looked at. Then it went to this series. Then there was an aftermath. And then we talked about the Night of the Living Dead London was the book from 1993, I think is when that one was. They're all Fantico. All of those books are with the artist Carlos Castro. When you're looking him up, I've seen his last name spelled with a K as well as a C. So I've seen variations on both. So I don't know how early this was. So from what I found out, because I actually found some Fantico stuff, I should have opened it up. I found some other Fantico stuff when I was downloading. By the way, when I have this screen open, unfortunately, I can't see the chat. I'll check in on it when I close the screen and stop the share. I was looking in kind of like a Fantico yearbook, and they had a bunch of Fantico kind of catalogs that came out. There was an article about Night of the Living Dead. Steve Bissette was supposed to be attached to this. Along with someone else. Was it going to be Clive Barker possibly that was going to take over writing? I don't remember exactly the other names that were attached, but then there was a delay, and then there was an advertisement in a later issue for this book saying, obviously things have changed. Sorry for the delay, the usual kind of stuff that you would read about these comics at the time. So we get a taste of what I think is some of Carlos's earlier work. And it's good. You can see where he's going. Production coordinator, Tom Schoolin, artist, Carlos Castro, adaptation, Tom Schoolin and Eric Stanway. So there you go. So that's who's at the helm of this one here. You really do get a sense of Castro's style. It kind of it grows even between these first two issues. This first issue is kind of the setup. It so far from my memory of watching this movie, which has been a lifetime, I actually want to revisit it. It was one of my favorites. I watched it a number of times when I first kind of discovered it or whatever. From my memory, this is a pretty straight ahead adaptation of the movie so far. It is a little messy at parts, especially within issue 2 when they're moving throughout the house. It almost feels like there might be some pages out of order. I don't know that for a fact, but that's kind of how the reading experience was. But even in that second issue, you really see his style kind of grow. It's not that it's bad here at all. I still like this stuff. But I really like what he did in London a hell of a lot, because it entered this kind of realm of abstract and mixing with collage and photographs and that sort of thing, which I thought was incredible. But I mean, you can even see here on the car, for example, like it's beautifully done there, right? So he's still got some pretty amazing talent. Uh, so far, I'm kind of not blown away by it. I still am hard on the lookout for these issues. I do want to get these in physical copy to kind of flip through them as well. I love that the scans have like the wrinkles in the page and things too from whatever copy they scanned. For some reason, I've only been able to find the first two though. I haven't been able to find the other two even online. It's a pretty elusive book. I actually found the Aftermath as well, but I don't want to read that one because it follows directly from this. And I have a feeling that's maybe the issue where things start going off into territory where they take the story in a different direction and kind of start making it their own and using that as a premise. So I don't want to read it until after I'm finished these 4 issues. I haven't even had a flip through it, so I don't even know. I can't even comment on his art. But this is the whole, they're coming to get you, Barbara. You can see they're coming for you, Barbara, is what he says. They're coming to get you, Barbara. Here's one now. And this guy comes walking up. That's a pretty damn good image there. I like that one quite a bit. Ed McKeever vibes in that body shape and stuff. But I mean, Castro is unreal, man. He's doing some impressive shit with this. Yeah. There you go. Johnny help. So we get into the meat and potatoes of it, and all hell starts breaking loose. I love his use of panels throughout this as well, too, having these like triangles cutting in, feels like a horror movie a little bit, smashing through the glass in a car to attack her and stuff. And some of these kind of low angle shots here, like that's a pretty nice angled shot there, lower angle shot. There's some photography use in there too. So he's even experimenting with some of this already, but still to not the same effect that he kind of grows into. Still beautiful, man. The guy's a hell of an artist. Which way am I going here? Wrong direction. There we go. So she gets into the house and we start to see some more of the zombies kind of surrounding the house. She's on the phone. That looks like it's lifted straight from the film there too. And there we go. She discovers a body upstairs too, which if you remember the movie, that's a pretty big moment. I mean, it's a classic. It's just an absolute classic film. So anyway, that's that. I won't show you too much. I won't show you anything from the second issue. It's just more of the same. Where's the screen here? Been better, been worse. Well, I mean, I'll take the been better. So you seem to be just on a steady stream then, Scott. I need to pick up the issue of Comic Book Creator that has an extended interview with Steve Bissette. Oh, okay. Is that a newer one that just came out, Scott, or is that an older one? So impressive stuff. Really great. Really want to get my hands on original copies of it. It's not going to be easy. I may have to just eventually go through my comic shop. I was hoping I would find them locally, but it doesn't seem to be something that's maybe going to happen. I went to one of the spots this weekend. Within the past year or so. Okay. I went to one of my spots this weekend and he didn't have much back issues open. He's going to have some more stuff coming in about a week or two. So I'm hoping that's at the flea market just up the road here from me. So hopefully I can get at him and dig through those boxes, and fingers crossed I find something. I found a lot of good stuff from Dan at Mad Cat Comics at the flea market in the past. So I'm hopeful that I'll strike some gold. The other thing, I don't know if we ended up talking about, I did finish, well, I know we didn't talk about it on Saturday. I don't remember if I've talked about it already, but I did finally finish reading Mouse, books 1 and 2. So I'd spoken about book 1 and kind of my thoughts on book 1, especially about his representation of his father and how he was talking about his father and things that his father was discussing. So what I kind of discovered with this one was that while it's like a good biography or autobiography of his father and his experience in concentration camps and his experience going through the war and all these things, it's also so much about kind of his relationship with his father. Somebody in the last stream, sorry, I don't remember who it was, they talked about, they couldn't really get into it because there was so much of him whining about his relationship and his father and stuff. I can see where that idea comes from. I don't agree with it, but I can see where it comes from because there is some of that for sure. But honestly, that's kind of the stuff that I found filled out the book a little bit more. This idea of struggling with his father's past and their relationship, because anything that his dad wants to bring up about his current situation, Spiegelman doesn't really have time for. He doesn't want him living with him when he's getting really sick. He's not listening to him about his relationship with his new wife. All of those things aren't things that he wants to have a part of. But when it comes to hearing this story about his time in Auschwitz, he's all ears. So I found that really interesting, and that kind of like struggle with the past and the struggle with relationships with your parents specifically. I like that. I like that he seemed to be having these challenges as he's telling a story that he feels is really important, but he then wants to keep his father at arm's length because obviously going through an experience like that has damaged his father to some degree, just with the way he sees the world and the things that he focuses on at this later stage of his life. I really, really liked it. There's some, I mean, of course there is. It's a book about the fucking Holocaust, but there's some really harrowing shit in here. When he talks about this, the scene that got me making noises out loud and talking to my wife about it was when he talks about being sent to clean out the fucking building that housed the ovens and shit. Was goddamn difficult to read, man. Like, I'm trying to find the page here because what he does is he ends up talking to somebody in there who was there the whole time and talked to him about and basically laid out. He draws a little map here, lays out, does the layout of the building itself and where various things happened in that building. These pages were so fucking heavy. Like, I mean, of course it's going to be, but again, I think that he handles it so well with sharing this information and kind of passing it on to us as a reader. And again, really solidifying that this is a traumatic experience that these people went through, and the ones that survived are still dealing with, even stuff like this is just intense, man. So I really, really liked it. I can absolutely see that it might be too intense for people. One of the things that I'd said to my wife when I finished reading the first book, I was talking to her about it, and she says, I actually wouldn't mind reading that. So when I was telling her the parts in this book and making these noises, she's like, I don't know, do you think I'll be able to read it? I'm like, well, I mean, that's your choice. It is a heavy duty story though, but I'm really glad I finally got my hands on book 2, stubborn enough to keep waiting instead of just buying one of like the million copies that they keep reprinting in a nice box set, being just stubborn and waiting for book 2. I'm glad that I have it in this way. That said, I may eventually just upgrade and buy the slipcase version that I've seen in the bookstores locally here, one of the new printings. But really great book. And I think just the way that his father was able to deal with things, and this kind of wheeling and dealing that he was able to do, and his kind of outgoing personality, uh, coming to, yeah, it absolutely is, Scott, for sure it is. Coming to the reality of where he is and what he needs to do to survive. And when he finally sees his wife and stuff, like all of those dynamics, and seeing friends of his. There's another story about them being piled onto a train, and he kind of strings up something at the top so he can sit above the crowd because they keep cramming people in, and they lock them in there for days on end, as people are dying in there, shoving the bodies out of the car door once a day. It's just, I mean, you can't even imagine. It's really not something that you can even wrap your head around, to the degree that what it must have been like. I mean, you can sit and try to imagine it, but it's just crazy to me. It's crazy. Humanity is fucking crazy. Can't believe the shit that people do to each other. It's mind-boggling. Um, so that's for the stuff that I didn't cover on Saturday. I'm gonna sort of just go through the stuff that I did talk about, but we'll sort of do it a little quicker, than we have before. I know that there's a bunch of you out there that haven't heard it because I made the video private. I'm probably gonna delete it after this one. Continuing with my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, one thing, if Scott is, or sorry, not Scott, if Colin is still here, one of the things that was a really great surprise, there was a few surprises with these issues that I read. So I read issues, did I read 10, 11, and 12, or 9, 10, 11, and 12? I don't remember. Maybe it was just 10, 11, and 12. So in issue number 11 here, a beautiful surprise for us 80s bin diggers was a pinup by the creators of New England Gothic that I've spoken about in the past. I'm not sure if it's one that you have, Colin, as well, too, that New England Gothic, if you've managed to score yourself a copy. But amazed to see in the write-up at the beginning of the issue that we're glad to have T.S. Brown and Carrie Moody from New England Gothic do a pinup. It was the book that was more like an illustrated, it was almost like an illustrated book. It was pretty close to being a comic, but there was a lot of like just narration and text. So again, the thing that impacted me the most about this is just how kind of small that indie world was at the time, that there was guys from these other books. Yeah, you do have Nina. Yeah, okay, I thought you had it. Yeah. So a really a really amazing little nugget in reading this. And again, I never would have known that if I hadn't been reading all these weirdo 80s books. So I'll share my screen again and we'll look at issue number 9. Or sorry, issue number 10 is what I mean. Let's go full screen again. So again, there's a few issues that I don't have, so I found them digitally so I could just read them and catch up. I'm at a point now where I'm about to enter a lot of gaps in the collection, some really big gaps. So I may kind of start slowing down, but I do want to keep reading this in order. I don't really want to jump around. I'm really enjoying reading it and keeping myself in that mindset of the years that this book was being put out, to just kind of stay with them through this journey, right? It's been a lot of fun, a lot. Like I knew that I would enjoy it. I had a pretty strong feeling that I would enjoy it, but I'm enjoying it a lot more than I even thought that I was going to. So this is from April 1987. This one continues right out of the final of the 4-issue micro series. So Leonardo's issue ends with him kind of trying to get back for Christmas, and the Foot has been attacking him as he's out in the city. Everybody else is back at April's place and they're setting up for Christmas. He comes in all beaten to shit. That then adds into this one. So between issues 9 and 10 is when that 4-issue micro series where it focused on every character, that's where those books take place. I was a little confused. I couldn't quite remember the order of things. So I've started putting them in order in my filing cabinet when I put them away after I'm reading them. So in future, if I want to revisit them, at least everything is laid out. So this one is just, well, it's not just, it's a pretty damn good issue, actually. It's a lot of fighting. one of the things that happens in this one, again, this use of storytelling and this use of paneling, their storytelling techniques are really top notch. And again, to go back to the reading some of these books that were around in the 80s and into the early 90s and stuff, and getting the style of book that people were doing before these guys came along, there's always something kind of missing, as good as some of those books are, because some of them are phenomenal in a variety of different ways. These guys, you can see how they kind of took the world by storm, because their storytelling is really top notch. It's really, really impressive. The stories themselves aren't overly complex or anything. It's just the way they portray the characters, the way they do the fight scenes, even on a page like this. Like I like that variety of panel layouts. They're always kind of playing with stuff. This one here stood out to me as well too, where the arrow is coming towards a Splinter there. And you see the sound effect breaking the panel borders. Like, touches like that are just really nice. Again, they're not earth-shattering storytelling methods, but they work so well. And the black and white is just, I'll say it every single time. Ross is sick of hearing me talk about it, but I love the black and white. I just can't help it. I see the color stuff and I enjoy it enough, but it's the black and white that does it for me. Even this tossing the arrow behind him as he turns to talk to the rest of the turtles, or to talk to the turtles rather. Great stuff. So one of the things, so we get into this whole stretch of these kind of smaller panels for quite a while. We get a couple of bigger shots here, but you start feeling all this confined space. You really start to feel, especially as things go dark, you're starting to feel kind of the constriction, until we hit the store, which is April's parents' store in that same building, and we're met with this. And honestly, when I was reading this, paused at this for quite a while and just soaked it in. It's pretty fucking amazing. It's a hell of a spread here. Like, it almost looks like it's a 3-page spread, the way that you can see it divided up. I wonder if this did go over 3 pages and they've digitally put this together for the scan here, because I can see one break. I don't know if you can see my mouse arrow there. I can see what looks like a break there. So that looks like the book is broken, or this image is broken up into 3 sections. I don't know if anybody knows that more than I, or if they did a full-on Starlin Steranko, where they did kind of a fold-out page to kind of give us that image. And if so, that's even more incredible. But I adore that image. And then you get the nice solo shot of Shredder himself. So a solid read. Stop sharing. There we go. In the first comics paperback, it does fold out. Okay, cool. Blew my mind when I was young. So the first comic, so that would be in color, those ones there. That's great. I need to find the rest of those. Again, even though they're in color, I would like to find the other 3 volumes. Did they get J.J. Abrams to do the coloring? Why was there lots of flare effects? I didn't really notice, to be honest, if there was any of those effects there. But if so, maybe they did. His early work. So the next issue number 11, it's kind of like the time of them kind of recuperating, licking their wounds. They go off to Casey Jones's grandma's farm, basically. Oh, there was. Okay. Yeah, I'll have to have a look at it again then, Scott. And April writes in her diary, one of the things that they talk about in the editorial, or the turtle tracks at the beginning, is that they were looking at how to deal with that passage of time, because they're constantly working on a bunch of other things. And they were trying to, because the story was taking place at Christmas, but now obviously it wasn't Christmas. They wanted to bring things up to current time. So they did this, and it allowed them to kind of tell still a really good story of how everybody was dealing with everything, especially April, because her building has been blown up and her parents' place is ruined, and people are hunting for them now, basically. So they're trying to figure out what to do. I love that image of Splinter there. It's really great. So we kind of read her journals throughout this whole kind of healing process of them. And as usual, we get a beautiful wraparound cover. So that was a good issue as well, very solid. But the one that kind of impressed me even more so. So at this time, because of all the work that's happening with Mirage and with the Turtles specifically, they decide one of the ways that they're going to try to stay on. There's going to be a reunion of various First Comics creators at the Baltimore Comic Con this year. Oh, that's pretty cool. That would be very interesting to hear them telling stories. They decide that what they're going to do is, instead of kind of sharing issues, oh man, I automatically always open up to this double page spread that I love. I'm not going to show you yet. They're going to kind of complete it themselves, so the other partner can work on the extra stuff that they have going on. So this one is Steve Levine doing the lettering, everything else Peter Laird. This is a pretty great story. So now they're all good again. They're having a picnic. They're deciding what they're going to do next. And into their picnic stumbles a guy out of the woods and kind of crashes. He's discovered this kind of militant group that has plans to try to start World War III. They feel that the United States is weak, and the only way to bring the United States back up to their full power is to drop a bomb, and it'll get blamed on the Russians, and then they can enlist with their little 6-person militia and make Uncle Sam proud and bring honor back to the United States. It's phenomenal how some of this stuff just continues, and some of these things, they're just kind of timeless. So this was a real timeless story. And of course the Turtles beat the shit out of them. But so as we go through it again, we get beautiful, gorgeous panels. We get a nice bit of just storytelling. It's a really nice kind of one-off contained story. And again, one of the things that amazes me about these guys, and one of the things I was putting together, especially with some of the human figures this time, is there is a little bit of Corbin in the way they construct their humans, specifically Peter, because this is a full-on Peter Laird issue here. They have this kind of squat nature to the human beings, and I'll show you when we get to one of my favorite images in the book here. Again, they do these killer 2-page spreads every issue. I mean, even look at Splinter here. So you get a side-by-side comparison of how big he is, or how sort of short and weird looking this guy is. But again, it's that character that I love. It's not a slight whatsoever. I think it looks amazing. So this was a pretty damn good issue, and it actually ends on a bit of a downer. Here's another good 2-page spread there. It ends on a bit of a downer when the bomb does blow up, and takes out the last remaining guy from this militant group. I sure did, Scott. I'll talk about that in a minute here. Yes, I absolutely did. I'm on board for all of the Corbin stuff. I've already ordered the next one that comes out in August, I think, the Den Neverwhere. I think it's August that it comes out. So a stellar issue. So, I mean, I'm going to say it every single time, and you'll get sick of me hearing me say it, but I'm so enjoying it, and I can absolutely see why it became an enormous hit. I'm loving it. I'm really, really loving it. So we talked Mouse. So we'll just talk about this quickly, actually, Scott, now, since you brought it up. I won't talk about it in any great deal, but Murky World. So I did pick this up last week. A shop got a copy in for me, so I went on, I don't know, Thursday or Friday or something to pick it up. And I read it immediately, and it's pretty fantastic. One of the things that I'll kind of repeat that I said from the stream on Saturday night that's not up there or going to be posted was that I love Corbin. I love him. Daryl D, don't get mad at me. I love Corbin. he's not always the strongest storyteller, and I found parts of this storytelling a little bit challenging to read. But overall, I did really like it. And one of the things that I loved the most about it, so I've never read these. So where these appeared, one of the things, actually, before we get into it, one of the corrections I'll make for myself in the video where I was talking about when I first picked this up, I completely misspoke. I said that this was something that was a Fantagor published comic, and it's not. It was Dark Horse. So Dark Horse, in volume 2 of Dark Horse Presents, I think it was the first 3 issues. It was like issue 1 to 3 or 2 to 4 or 3 to 5 or something like that. It was the early issues where it was the story first appeared. And then there was a one-shot called Murky World. So all of that stuff plus this is contained in this hardcover. So all originally published by Dark Horse, all originally colored by Corben himself. So everything that you see here is by Corben's hand. So which is, again, crucial when it comes to reprinting someone's work. I love his stuff. This is a beautiful book to look at. Like I said, though, there was parts of the story that were a little sloppy and a little weird. One of the things that I noticed when I compared the story in here with this single issue, this came out just this past Wednesday. Cthulhu Han Luke. Hello, by the way. This came out just this past Wednesday. So when I compared the issue with the actual book, they've changed they added some text, they added some things to the hardcover, and it was interesting to see it because when I was reading the hardcover and going through those sections, there was parts that didn't quite make sense to me. And then when I could put it side by side with the single issue, it made a lot more sense in the single issue format. So I don't really know why he or whoever it was, I'm assuming it was Corben, decided to add some text to it, but it really ruined the flow of the story. I will also say that towards the end, it starts getting really, really good. It really picks up. One of the things that I love about this book, unlike a Den kind of thing, is this: our hero here doesn't doesn't end up getting the girl. In fact, the girl hates his guts. He's not kind of that stereotypical escape into fantasy that that Corben likes to do with some of these books. He's not a guy that's very well liked at all. So he's not coming in, saving the day, getting the damsel in distress. As a matter of fact, he's kind of a fucking moron. He gets taken advantage of a couple of times. It's great. So that part of it I really liked. It was a little bit of a struggle to kind of get to that point because it was a little tough going early on. And then this final story here is a black and white tale. And this is the one that's the single issue, I believe. And this was a fantastic story. I really liked this one a lot. It's kind of a nice cap. I want that page turned. It's kind of a nice cap to it. I'm pretty sure this was the final one. Let me just have a look here. Yes, so this is the one from this single issue there. So that's from the comic itself. I'm so looking forward, just Scott, to mention to Scott here. I'm really looking forward to the rest of these. I'm absolutely on board. I hope that they're consistent. I'm thinking that it's going to be pretty incredible, specifically because Jose Villarrubia is on colors. I don't know if you watch the Living the Line channel, Scott, but Living the Line, they did a 2.5-hour interview with Jose, and he talks about just his thoughts on coloring and his time in comics, period. But then he talks about working on Corben stuff and actually working with Corben while he was still alive. He did the coloring on his Cage 4-issue miniseries about Luke Cage that Marvel put out. He was the colorist on that. So he had a pretty close relationship there because he was doing things that Corben didn't like, and Corben was very listen, don't do that again. You need to fix this. So it's a good kind of, yeah, if you love long interviews, honestly, it's stellar. They get into some territory because they're all really well versed in that world. They end up talking about some stuff that completely went over my head, but I still got a lot out of it just hearing them talk about it and to the detail. And even Jose himself at a couple times says, this is really in the weeds. Are you sure that your audience is going to be interested in this? And they're like, no, don't worry about it. Don't worry. Just we'll talk about it. They'll catch up, So it's well worth hunting down, Scott. A really, really good interview, and gives me really high hopes for the series itself. Sometimes Mobius stories can strike me that way. The storytelling can be a bit strange. Absolutely. And I think, like, especially with a guy like Mobius, he's dealing with kind of this internal kind of sci-fi type of idea and fantasy, right? Like there's these real internal struggles going on in Mobius stories. At least to my mind anyway. Corbin is he's steeped in that world of escapism. There's a few stories where it's, a Bloodstar is a great example. It's somebody on their deathbed, and then they go and imagine this whole story where they're this barbarian and they're saving people and they're banging women and all these kind of things. So he's really on that escapism side of things, it seems like to me. So that's it for that. Quick word on a couple of the free comic book day issues that I picked up. I picked up Fish Flies. I'm not so sure. It was a good enough issue. I'm not a hardcore Lemire fan. I don't have a strong opinion on him either way, to be honest. I don't hate him either. I do enjoy his books. I'm not so sure. I mean, this one, it might be one that I'd wait to hear what people are saying about it before I pick up anything else. It wasn't bad. It just didn't really capture me like I was kind of hoping it would. This one, on the other hand, so this is the new Rick Remender, The Sacrificers. This one did capture me. I really enjoyed this issue. Had enough questions that kept me curious. I do like Remender's style of writing. I find he often has himself paired up with some really good artists. So I'm curious about this. I have a lot of questions, and I hope that the first issue, like they do sometimes with these free comic book day issues, they reprint kind of the first little chunk of issue number 1 just to give you the taste, and then you buy issue number 1 to get those extra pages to finish off the story. I'm hoping that this one sort of exists outside of that, and issue 1 will be a fresh start, and this is sort of like a sneak peek at the world and some of the characters. But the art looks beautiful. The story is intriguing. It seems like it's dealing with a couple of different layers here, so we'll see. I mean, I've got faith in the guy that at least he's going to give us something of interest, but we'll see. But that one I'm on board for. I think when that comes out, I will absolutely be grabbing issue number 1. And then Animal Castle. We're almost done here. I did pick up the free comic book day issue of Animal Castle. They did a really smart thing in here. They give you kind of a previously on Animal Castle, so they kind of catch you up with the last little bit of what happened in chapter 1, and then they give you a little piece of chapter 2. I'm a little skeptical. I'm going to reserve any sort of hardcore conversation or criticism until I've read the second issue. I believe the second volume is only 2 issues. So we'll hopefully have a complete chapter. Whether it continues after that, I'm honestly not sure. But in the CLZ, it only has 2 issues listed. I really, really like this first chapter quite a bit. The second one, I'm not really sure where it's going to go. But again, once I've read the whole thing, we'll sit and probably talk about this in maybe it's even its own video. But of course, I got the free comic book day version, and then of course I got issue number 1. That was necessary for the love of comics. Hello, how are you? And I got 2 covers for it because, like I said, I do love this book a hell of a lot. So even though I'm sort of very soured on Ablaze, I still do really like that book. Save that one to last because these other ones here I don't have much to say about. Dead Boy Detectives issue number 4 and 5. So I think this one only has 1 issue to go. it's not bad. It's not kind of capturing me like I was hoping it would. I think that if this was an ongoing series, if this was something that was going to last 50 issues, I think I would probably get into a rhythm of just buying it just because I do enjoy the issues on their own. I just don't know if there's anything here that really sticks with me beyond the experience of sitting and reading the comic. Then I put it away and it's sort of out of my mind, because every time I read a new issue, I kind of have to remind myself of where we are, what we're doing, what's going on, what's the point of this story. And it seems to be sort of meandering a little bit, which can be an absolute good thing. But again, I think this only has one more issue to go. So it hasn't been super satisfying the way that I thought. Now, issue number 6 might come along and blow my fucking mind. Who knows? I'd be surprised if that happened. It's a good book. I just don't know if I'd scream to, if you're a fan, go and get this stuff. I guess if you're a hardcore Sandman fan and you read everything from the Sandman universe, then you probably are getting this, and you're probably getting maybe more out of it than I am. I'm not as well versed in everything Sandman, so maybe there is stuff that I'm missing. Batman The Adventures continue, season 3, issue number 4 and 5 as well. And I think there's only one more issue of this to go as well. These 2 issues were better than the first few. It seems like it's kind of caught up with putting me back in that animated universe. I feel like it's getting a little more lighthearted, and especially in this last issue, we get to talk about the Suicide Squad and Harley Quinn and stuff, everybody's favorite. So I feel like there's something here that's been missing for season 2 and the rest of season 3. I'm off. If it goes to season 4, I won't be getting it unless I hear from somebody like Rasa who says it's incredible. I won't be continuing with it. I just haven't been loving it as much as the first season. I thought was really entertaining, and I think some of that also was my just sheer excitement that they were doing something within this animated Batman universe again. So I think that had me going through it. On the flip side, though, this Audio Adventures, they could do 100 issues of this, and I would gladly buy every single one. I love this book. It's still really good. I think there's only one issue left of this one here too. This is issue number 6. I think issue number 7 is the last one. I've been getting the Mike Allred covers as well too, so I've got all the Mike Allred covers. But man, oh man, do I love this. Yeah, it's a very good point. One of the things I liked most about the Batman animated show was that it had very limited ties to the rest of the DC universe. Absolutely. And for the most part, the animated series books have been like that too. This one, maybe this last issue, maybe a little less so because of introducing Waller, is that her name? And then the Suicide Squad. So because they're introducing that, maybe it loses something a bit. But honestly, just the writing itself hasn't really caught me, and it's kind of lost a little bit of that kind of playful tone that the animated series did have, even though there was some very, very serious episodes and there were some serious things going on, even in the ones that were a little more light, right? But there was some sort of magic with that writing. And even in the comic, when they were doing that first animated series comic, it really captured that stuff nicely that this one just isn't. That said, though, this book really does capture that and do something even a lot more. This is a phenomenal little series here. I'm very much in love with this. I really hope that they keep up with this. I love the art so much in this. Let's make sure that we do the credits properly here, because I can never remember. Sorry. Stand by. So Dennis McNicholas is the writer. Anthony Marquis and Jay Bone are the pencilers, and then Jay Bone is the inker, and of course the one and only Dave Stewart is the colorist. So I love it. Rasa is getting it as well, and I think she had the same experience, that it's such a good story. There's kind of 3 main stories running through this, and I'm never confused. And it's also one of those that when I come back to it, there was a little bit of a delay before issue 6 came out. I didn't find myself lost. I didn't have to sit and kind of remind myself, okay, so we're here. This is happening. This has been happening. You sink right back into it. The ability to tell those 3 stories, I think, is pretty impressive, making them all very interesting stories. You know that they intertwine for sure, and you know that they're all going to come to a head. But the journey through these stories, I think, works very well. And I mean, I love the version of Batman here. It kind of has that Darwin Cook. Yes, he did. That's right. J-Bone did some work on the Rocketeer books from IDW as well. Yeah, I had some of those. They didn't survive a cull at one point, though. I did end up selling them off. He does his kind of Darwin Cook-ish type of Batman here. So this one has a lot of nods, again, to that animated series. But it's still very much its own style. Everything about this book, the cover stock is unbelievable. The paper is this kind of textured affair here that I just love. So I love this book. And again, I love it so much, I always end up getting 2 covers. There's one that's in my pull box, and then I always make sure that I grab, go down to Galaxy so I can grab the all red cover as well, because they're the place in town that has a ton of variants. Yeah, Darwin Cookish is good enough for me as well. And then finally, to talk about what I've read before I just show off one more thing. Radical Comics did a Rick Remender story, The Last Days of American Crime. I'm unfamiliar with the company at all. I don't know what else they've done. I haven't really ever dug into it, but I did see the 3-issue series Time Bomb. Jimmy Palmiotti, Justin Gray, and the one and only Paul Gulacy, who you can see all over that cover there. Hopefully you can see that okay. I've dimmed the screen on my computer so it's not as glary. Yeah, I also think that you're right on the Spirit. Yes, for Darwin's The Spirit, which if you haven't read, I'm assuming that you've read it. I love that Darwin Cook Spirit. I've got a bunch of the Sergio Aragones Spirit as well, too, when he took that over. Pardon me. It's a series I've always meant to kind of continue and complete, because I was really enjoying the Aragones stuff as well. But I'm a huge Darwin Cook fan, so that was a no-brainer for me to kind of buy into that one. And again, the production on that book was beautiful. The cover stock on those issues was gorgeous. Everything about that was really well done. So this one was a fun enough book. I don't know if I'm on the hunt for more Radical Comics necessarily. I'd keep my eyes open for them. The bonus of this one is that the 3 issues were next to nothing. So it was a pretty easy sale. The moment that kind of told me what this was going to be. So the first thing we discover is on page 4 or whatever it is here. They discover an underground Nazi camp, which is basically a city that's buried, that exists underground in these caves and tunnels. As they're investigating, they set off a trigger. They set off an alarm that triggers a missile, and this bomb gets set off, and it ends up spreading disease amongst the masses and killing people. So now we have this. The government is trying to deal with it. What are we going to do? Trying to find a specific image here. There we go. The government is, what are we going to do? This is going to cost us, et cetera, et cetera. They're kind of course, hunkered down, and they're all fine for the most part. Some of them do end up getting infected that didn't have a chance to save themselves yet. So we get introduced to an elite task force that then gets told about an even more secretive organization within the government, deep undercover. That's they were creating a time machine. They can only go backwards in time. They can't go forwards in time. They can only send you back for 24 hours. You automatically come back to the time that you left at. So they get rid of that idea. When I found out what kind of book it was, I love this page so much. I wish more comics would do this, to be honest. So she talks about the time machine, and basically what she says is, we don't have time to go into details on the complexity of time travel, and frankly, most of it wouldn't make any sense to you. All you need to know is that Page unlocked. Page is one of the characters, this Dr. Page, unlocked the key to time travel. He figured out the formula in theory, and we're putting it to the test. So I love that. Fuck the comic book logic. You don't need to know how it works. We're not going to get into a discussion about it. We're not going to do comic science for you. It doesn't matter how it works. We're sending these people back in time, and they're going to fight Nazis, because that's what ends up happening in this one. They get sent back to almost the end of World War II, literally within weeks of the end. And the rest of the series is basically them fighting and killing Nazis as they go back in time, because the idea was they were only going to send them back like a week in time, 1 week, so they could go and find the undercover bunker, disarm the bomb itself, and then save the world. If, of course, an accident happened and they get sent back way too far. And it's pretty entertaining. There's parts that are really hard to stomach. Some of the dialogue, it's super cheesy. But I mean, I don't know what else to expect from something like this. Gulacy's art is really the draw here. As wonky as he can get sometimes, I do have a soft spot for Gulacy stuff. So yeah, 3-issue series, pretty fun. You get what you get. You even get Hitler. I think he's on the cover here. I thought he was on one of these covers. Yeah, here you go. There he is, there as he's crumbling in the corner. Entertaining shit. So that's Time Bomb. Please tell me that publisher had a free comic book titled Free Radical. No, they didn't, Scott. No, they did not. So that's it for the stuff that I read. We've now caught up. One of the things I just wanted to quickly show off that I picked up this weekend locally, I can't believe I found it. It was on a local Facebook, like Winnipeg Comic Addicts Facebook group. There was an auction going on. I got the Fireside book edition of Doctor Strange. I've seen and loved this cover so much. I've seen it online a lot. It's gorgeous. So this is the infamous Fireside books. They did Son of Origins, Origins of Marvel Comics, Son of Origins, Bring on the Bad Guys. We have Bring on the Bad Guys, and I think Son of Origins. They did Silver Surfer, Incredible Hulk, etc. So this is just a collection of Doctor Strange stories, mostly from Strange Tales, and 90% of them are Ditko stories, except for the very last story, which is Barry Windsor Smith doing a Doctor Strange story. So this is gorgeous. It's in beautiful condition. I'm being a little gentle with it because when I open some of the pages, I am hearing some cracking, and not the good kind of crack either. The ones where it sounds like the glue is starting to separate from the spine. For the most part, though, the middle of the book is still really, really solid. It's those first few pages that have that scary kind of sound that we all know. So amazing. So glad to have this. I've got all these stories already, or most of these stories already, whether it's in reprints or whether it's the Strange Tales books themselves, or collector's item classics that put stuff out. But look at this. This is one that I don't have. The Wondrous World of Doctor Strange, so starring Spider-Man. And look at that first page. It's beautiful. I'm going to turn up my screen here a little bit. There we go. Maybe you can see that. Maybe it's a little brighter for you with the light coming off the computer. This one I'm very excited to read. I might sit and read this one tonight, actually. But I love that page. Love those colors. Ditko was the perfect guy for this stuff. And of course, there's narrations by Stan Lee throughout the whole book. Yeah. And you know what you expect from that sort of thing. Beautiful, though. And here's some Spellbinding scenario by Stan Lee. Phantasmagoric plot and penciling by Barry Smith. And I'm not sure exactly what issue this came out in. If this was in his, I don't know, I'd have to look. It doesn't have a year anywhere on here. Embellishment by Dan Adkins, lettering by John Costanza. But there you go. There's Barry Smith's version of The Good Doctor. Yeah, so I'm not exactly sure where that one appeared. This was 1975. Is that when this came out? Nope, 1979. Missed it by that much. So there you go. So beautiful, beautiful book. So glad to have this as part of my Doctor Strange collection in the house now. So very nice score. Thank you very much. You know who you are that I bought it from locally, if you are even watching. That's it, everybody. This Sunday, we should be back for a chat, Rasa and myself. I don't remember whose channel we're on this week, but because you're all subscribed to both of us, you'll find out on Sunday. And that's all. I hope you're having a good week out there, and we'll talk to you later.